don't talk about my past much. Most people just see the katana across my back and figure I'm another blade looking for trouble. But the truth is, I spent most of my life trying to keep this blade sheathed. My name's Rivenar Windblade. I was born in Kasomir, where the docks reek of tar and the sunsets turn the bay. The color of spilled wine. My parents ran a little open-air chapel to Sheelan wedged between a painter's guild and a rose garden that somehow stayed alive. No matter how many winters came for it, anybody could walk in. Sailors, street kids, drunk poets, and pick up a brush or a lute for an hour. That garden was my playground, my classroom, my church. Some windblades never fled through the gates when earthfall hit. When the event happened, a living branch of pale crystal broke off the Adar arch at 7 arches, and my family carried it out of the fire. They planted in a quiet grove up the Verduran fork, and it grew into a tree whose leaves chimed like glass whenever the wind remembered them. The night I turned 50, my parents called me into the rose garden after the last hymn. They pressed the old family katana into my paint-stained hands and told me the tree had started singing again. One line, over and over. When beauty stands at the edge of ending, seek the healer beneath the eastern moon. Carry the branch willingly given, and let the windblade guard what Arodin once promised to return. 3 nights later, the tree dropped every leaf in a silver rain. My mother and father gathered them into a silk bundle, pricked their fingers, and let their blood fall across the bare branches so I'd always carry them with me. Then they told me to walk east before dawn. My mother's last words. The tree has given what it can. Now it's your turn. I left Casimir that night with the bundle against my heart and the old katana on my hip. Months later, under a fat Tian moon, I found the wanderer brewing tea beside a river. Old human monk, hands gentle enough to set a sparrow's wing, fast enough to blur when he had to. He took one look at the crystal leaves sticking out of my pack and just smiled like he'd been expecting me. For 30 years, he dragged me across half the continent. One morning, he marched me down to a pond full of fat river turtles sunning themselves on half-submerged logs. He hopped onto the nearest shell, light as a dragonfly, and told me to follow. I sank like a stone. The first 100 times, he just laughed, fished me out, and made me try again. His only words of training were beauty floats, anger sinks. Learn the difference. By the end of that summer, I could run across a dozen turtle bags without waking a single one. That lesson stuck harder than any kata. Move soft, move precise, and you never have to hurt what's under your feet. That's also where the battle host trick came from. He showed me how to invite ancestral windblade spirits into the blade for one heartbeat. Just long enough to cross those turtles without a ripple, or to be where beauty needs me before blood gets spilled. When the time felt right, he brought me to a green faith druid in the Mindspin foothills. Once the druid saw the crystal leaves, they carefully cut a living strip of heartwood from their oldest ash tree. Healing, rebirth, and wrapped it around the hilt as a gift. Then I watched as the wanderer forged the blade in the little traveling forge he carried mithril for the body, a shard of the crystal tree for the core. My blood mixed with my parents to wake the runes. The sword took the name Windblade that night. When I draw it clean, the sylvan along the fuller hums soft just for me. Not idle as the sword that is wielded in the hand of the king. I figure that only means the hand guarding beauty better stay ready. I've got one regret that still sits heavy. There was a season I let a silver-tongued art broker talk me into trading a single crystal petal for the finest pigments in opera. Found out later it ended up glued to some noble's mirror. Felt like I'd sold a piece of my parents for pocket change. The wanderer made me paint 100 roses on the chapel wall back home before he'd speak to me again. I still add one every time I find a shell and shrine. So in short, I am a forlorn elf raised in a rose garden in Casimir, trained on turtle backs and river stones, carrying a merciful mithril katana that would rather knock out than kill.